Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Derek D-Dog Lamaster.
This is Scream Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and use our Twitter handles. I am Jamie Racket Hiles, and that's Lydia. Lydia is Spooky Judy. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. That really rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I've been a little groggy today, but besides that, I'm okay. Thanks for asking.
Nice.
How are you guys?
Good. I had a day at work, and then now I'm doing this, so it's definitely better than it was. Work was a bad day, but
I almost fell asleep on the floor.
Good. Well, hopefully you got your nap in before we start recording tonight.
You never know.
I meant to take a nap. Like, I woke up and my throat was sore, like my tonsils or something. I don't know what's going on, but I couldn't even talk barely this morning. And I was gonna take a nap because it must be like allergies or something. But my eyes just feel really heavy and everything. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to take a nap. And instead, I started working on the poster for the movie.
The poster!
So,
yes. Can't wait for you guys to see that. That's going to be dropping.
Excited.
By the time this episode airs, it'll probably have dropped. It should have dropped. Yeah. So, that's exciting. Yes, I'm excited too. I had a weird night last night. At like 1 a.m, my car alarm started going off. I woke me up out of a dead sleep. I walked out there, didn't see anybody in the car, checked it. And what had happened was the door was ajar slightly from when I didn't shut it all the way when I left the car. So I shut it with my hip. The door was slightly ajar, and it was so windy last night that it blew my door open and set off my car alarm.
Gosh.
So
it was pretty windy.
Yeah, so I didn't go back to sleep I didn't go to sleep till like 2 a.m. because
oh no,
I just couldn't go back to sleep. My adrenaline I was like, oh man. And so Derek, I might be dozing off on this one too.
Okay.
Getting wind.
At least I will not be the only one.
Exactly.
I feel like if we had a podcast where we all fell asleep during the podcast, I feel like we would have to probably hang up our hang the towel up on the podcast.
Yeah, time to hang up our headphones. Yeah, you're probably right.
Or change our name to
Sleep Bloody Movies.
Yeah.
We'll say ASMR Bloody Movies.
Welcome to Scream Bloody Movies. I'm your host, Jamie Hiles.
Set the mood.
That was good. I could be Stevie Wayne from now on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Scream Bloody Movies.
You don't look like Stevie Wayne.
No, I don't. If only. Stevie, she's got it going on. So, guys, let's start this week like we do every week, and let's get into the horror news. I don't have a lot today, but what I have is not that exciting either. So lower your expectations.
Perfect.
I unfortunately don't have any new Monsters updates, not since, we're all updated out. But I do have this little bit of news, which is that M. Night Shyamalan's latest thriller has started filming. It is called Knock at the Cabin.
Yes.
We've talked about this.
We did very briefly, but now we have an actual synopsis. You guys ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready.
Yes.
7-year-old Wynn and her parents, Eric and Andrew, are vacationing at a remote cabin on quiet New Hampshire lake. Their closest neighbors are more than 2 miles in either direction. One afternoon, as Wynn catches grasshoppers in the front yard, a stranger unexpectedly arrives in the driveway. Leonard is the largest man Wynn has ever seen, but he is a young, friendly, and he wins her over almost immediately. Leonard and Wynn talk and play until Leonard abruptly apologizes and tells Wynn, "None of what's going to happen is your fault." 3 more strangers then arrive at the cabin, carrying unidentifiable, menacing objects. As Wynn sprints inside to warn her parents, Leonard calls out, Your dads won't want to let us in, Wynn. But they have to. We need your help to save the world." Thus begins an unbearably tense, gripping tale of paranoia, sacrifice, apocalypse, and survival that escalates to a shattering conclusion, one in which the fate of a loving family and quite possibly all of humanity are intertwined.
Hmm.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
I've already got a theory, but that sounds awesome.
Actually
I will go
sounds
watch
pretty
that.
good, right? So
It does
the
sound
movie
good.
stars Dave Bautista, Rupert Grint, Nikki Amuka Bird, Ben Aldridge, and Jonathan Groff. Dave Bautista's in it. Maybe he plays the big
He's gotta
guy,
play
Win.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the big guy, probably the stranger, right?
That's my best guess.
What do you guys think? You excited for this?
That sounds great. So sometimes he gets a bad rap, but I gotta say, I like almost all the stuff that he has done.
So this is where
Even
we
the
will
things
differ.
that aren't popular, I kind of like.
Me too, Derek. I'm team M Night all the way.
You guys, you lost souls.
The Village. I love The Village.
Yes, my favorite.
I think it's a great movie.
Okay, so
it.
We'll actually give those reviews eventually, but I'm going to give you a quick rundown on M. Night Shyamalan. You ready for it? It's Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Split.
What about Glass? You don't like Glass?
No, I don't like Glass.
I haven't seen Glass.
Did not like Glass.
Dude, I
like
didn't
Signs.
even mind
I like Signs.
The Happening.
The Happening is terrible. It's a flat out bad movie.
All of them.
I would give it like a 6.5, almost a 7.
Well, don't give away your rating. We're going to have to read this one day.
It's a good one.
We're never going to get to The Happening. We're never going to get to The
How did you
Happening.
guys know I wasn't going to pick The Happening next week? Because it is my pick.
That's not happening.
We'll just give our ratings right now, so you can't pick that.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Well, you'd be doing me a favor, so I didn't have to watch that steaming pile of shit.
I like The Happening.
Bad. It's not that bad.
Well, it's confirmed what my next pick is.
Oh, good. Lumberjack Man 2.
What, Killer Waffles?
Yeah. It's Lumberjack Man 2. That ain't breakfast. Or you don't know what breakfast is. All right, guys. Christina Ricci has wrapped production on Tim Burton's Addams Family spinoff.
What?
Yes. So we knew that she was added to the cast, right?
And that's animated, right?
Wait. What do you mean? She was added to the cast. How is she not like a critical role?
I think this is the animated one, Lydia. We don't know what it's the Wednesday Addams one. Remember, it's the Wednesday Addams show. And it says here that we don't know what her role is. Like, it's not been announced yet. We don't know if
she's not Wednesday?
No, Jenna Ortega's Wednesday. Because it takes
place. I just lost any respect for this movie.
Do you not remember us talking? We had like a full discussion about this.
I do. Now I do. I'm just saying. I wouldn't even bother her at all.
It stars Catherine Zeta-Jones and Louise Guzman in the roles of Morticia and Gomez. It is animated. And it has Jenna Ortega as Wednesday. Wednesday's attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a monstrous killing spree that has terrorized the local town, and solve the supernatural mystery that embroiled her parents 25 years ago, all while navigating her new and very tangled relationships at Nevermore. I don't know about that, guys. I don't know about that plot synopsis. What do you think?
It doesn't sound like Addams Family.
Sounds like Sabrina, right? Or some shit like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, like, Wednesday has never had psychic powers, right?
I don't remember.
I mean, not in the shows, anyways, you know?
I don't remember that. I mean, no.
I can't say for, like, the comics, you know, the original, maybe she did, but, like,
I don't think so. I think they're mistaken Wednesday for Johnny Smith from the Dead Zone. Or they're thinking she's Sean Spencer, who is a fake psychic, by the way, but a real detective.
It's dumb. I'm not interested in it whatsoever.
Okay. That tells us that it's probably going to be of some quality.
That's so mean. I don't know how you add her to the cast. I think that was a bad move on their behalf. But
I don't. I think that it was a good move on their behalf to add her to the cast, because then you get some credibility, right? Because you're like, oh, one of in our generation's minds, one of the original Addams Family actors are back. You know, so it has to be good. It's like the cameo. It's kind of like putting Danielle Harris in Rob Zombie's Halloween, right? Like, they did it so that way we'd be like, oh, Jamie Lloyd is in this, so it's okay, we're having fun. And then we watch it, and then we have to get a hepatitis shot afterwards. You know, just what it is.
You're not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. Katie Siegel, of course, from Sons of Anarchy, and from my generation, better known as Peg Bundy, has a new Blumhouse movie coming out called Torn Hearts. It is a cautionary tale of the rise of stardom set in the iconic Nashville country music scene. Two friends, rising artists on the brink of a big break, will do just about anything to realize their dream, including a pilgrimage to the legendary and reclusive Harper's Dutch mansion, which is played by Katie Siegel, in hopes that she'll record a song for them. While their lifelong idol seems intent to help, the visit devolves into a twisted series of mental and physical torment as the pair discover Harper and each other may have other motives. What do you guys think of this?
You know, that sounds kind of familiar. I think I just saw a movie like that, but it was like an old movie with like old country singers. And it was really goofy. It was probably on like MST3K or something like that. Or probably Riff Tracks.
Yeah, it's an interesting, I mean, it's a kind of a concept that's been done before too. Yeah. Besides not only that, but like, I mean, you know, we've had a couple of those. The setup kind of reminds me of like, you know, like Audition a little bit and stuff like that. You have this kind of go for this one thing and then it turns into another, and then the you know. But it sounds fun. I would like to see her as a villain in a horror movie. That sounds fun, right?
Yeah, it could be.
And then finally, the last bit of news I have for you guys is really not much news, but Nick Castle is talking about Halloween Ends. Figured we'd end with some Halloween Ends news. Nick Castle says that the conclusion to Halloween Ends will be surprising. Here's what he says. I think there will be, he says, I do a little cameo in this new one. We'll have the end of at least the David Gordon Green version of Halloween. I think there might be more because of all the success of this trilogy, of course. But Green will have a very surprising storyline, ending for everyone. It's absolutely something I don't think you would have guessed in terms of the way it's going to unroll. So let's unpack that. What do you guys think? What could this possibly be?
That they actually kill Michael Myers?
They could kill Michael Myers, but the Shape never dies. Evil never dies. And even if they do kill the Shape, in about 3 to 5 years, the Shape will be back with another movie, because these movies make hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office, right?
Yeah. That would be shocking, though.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I mean, I think Laurie Strode's going to die.
Yeah.
I think he gets abducted by aliens.
Well, that would infuriate a big chunk of the fan base. You're right on that. I would go and burn the negative to that film.
So the 4-year jump happens, and they're in a post-apocalyptic world.
This is not Malignant 2.
I almost just spit coffee on my nose right there.
Let's just throw all of your beats in there. So the post-apocalyptic
And Michael
world
Myers is the savior.
black and white or color, one of the two. What else happens in this pitch, Derek?
Well, he's the savior, so he saves the world because he takes out a gang of mutant gangbangers.
Gangbangers. Did you just mix this with The Dark Knight Returns?
Maybe.
He fights
Could
some
have
giant
been
mutants.
inspiration.
I thought you were going to say the shape has to fight off the evil that is Gabriel in this post-apocalyptic world.
They do a mashup.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad that none of those ideas are ever going to happen. So let's just see what I mean. I have faith the movie's going to be good. I have faith that they're going to end it on a note. You know, it may disappoint some people or whatever, but I think we're going to look fondly on this trilogy eventually.
Eventually. Maybe Jason steps out at the end and is like introduces like Michael versus Jason.
Ooh, that'd be good. I'd be down with that. I'd just be glad seeing Jason on the screen regardless. It's been 4 to 5
maybe
years.
that's why they've been keeping it like, oh no,
Under
we're still
wraps.
fighting about it. We're still fighting. Yeah. There's no news about that. Don't worry about that. And then they're just like,
There's a very mediocre
said
fan
that.
film that is made where those two face off.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about fan films. We're talking about the real McCoy, okay?
I'm just saying.
Directed by John Carpenter.
Yes.
I would like
What
to
would
hear.
that? What would that even look like?
I don't think he would do that, but I would like to see. I would like to read that another John Carpenter movie is on the way. That would make I would be happy for that entire rest of the year. I'd be like, doesn't matter. John Carpenter's making a new movie, you know. He is scoring. We talked about it briefly, but he is scoring Firestarter, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
So at least we have that, and he's of course scoring Halloween Ends, which will be out this October. So, guys, that wraps up the horror news. Like I said, not a lot going on this week, and not more than we talked about already, at least. So, let's talk about tonight's movie. We are doing Mike Flanagan's Oculus, based off of a short film and a short story by him. This is a 2013 film starring Karen Gillan, and it is it's a good one. So let's talk about our experiences with it. Let's start with you, Derek, since you're the one that picked it. You've obviously seen this before.
I have seen this before. Trying to think of. This came out in 2013, so it had to be pretty close to that. And it was memorable. It was very memorable. It's a great premise for a movie, and for a lot of reasons we'll get into here in a couple minutes. But it's one of. There are very few films that, like, in modern day, that give me goosebumps. This one does.
Lydia.
Yep, I watched this one in theater when it came out.
Ooh.
I was pretty deep into Doctor Who at this time, so it was kind of strange for me to see Amy Pond on screen in a horror movie with an American accent, you know.
A very good American accent. It doesn't really slip very often.
Oh yeah, no, she is brilliant. I've heard her say in an interview that she feels like she can do American accents just so naturally and like just with ease. Like she doesn't have to think about it, and she nails it. So you would never know. But yeah, I enjoyed watching it in theater, and watching it again, I was really excited that Derek picked this because it was pretty good. Pretty spooky.
Yeah, I went and saw. I didn't see this in the theaters, but when it came out, I rented it. 2013. Yeah, I was living in an apartment in Bunker, and I rented this when it came out because I thought it looked spooky and interesting, and I watched it and I liked it. I mean, I haven't seen it. Maybe I've seen it one other time before I watched it this week, but I liked it. I thought it was really interesting and really unique. And what's really great about it is, like I had no idea who Mike Flanagan was at the time, and I had no idea that I would end up being like a Flanagan fanboy. Some 9 years later, that I would start a podcast talking about this movie and talking about the merits of Mike Flanagan. So that's pretty cool to come around and see that now. So yeah, I didn't have much expectations of going in. I just thought it looked like a interesting premise for a horror movie, and it looked like it was well shot and well made. And if you know Mike Flanagan movies, you know it's both of those. So yeah, that's my story. Interesting little tidbit before we start. You know what one of the studios behind this movie is, don't you?
I wrote that down. WWE, man.
WWE Studios. Yep.
Yeah. That's in my notes. That was the first note I put down. I was like, what?
Yep, WWE Studios. They were making these films. They also did the Kane vehicle, See No Evil. Remember that one? And its sequel, See No Evil and See No Evil 2.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're kind of like, I guess, Black Christmas type. Like his killer character is kind of Billy-ish.
Do they still do movies?
I don't know if they. I don't know. They haven't. I mean, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they still do those direct-to-DVD or direct-to-VOD ones for sure. But they had a couple of big ones too.
Yeah, John Cena was in one back in the day called Marine.
He was also in one called 12 Rounds, which is not the best. But
Austin in it?
No, the one with Austin's The Condemned, and it rocks. It's really good. No, those are horror movies. Mostly they do action movies.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're wrestlers, of course. The Condemned with Stone Cold Steve Austin is really good, though. You guys should totally check that out. So this movie jumps around all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a quick synopsis on the story, and then let's dive into it, okay? So essentially, the plot of the movie is that these kids witnessed a terrible event when they were young. Their parents were killed. Their parents died. And when we pick up with them in modern day, one of them, the boy, Timmy, has been institutionalized, and his sister has been out on her own through this whole time. And he's trying to get help. So basically he's trying to see everything psychologically, and he doesn't know what he believes anymore. His sister believes that all of the deaths were brought on by this evil mirror that has some kind of evil power, this big giant mirror. So when he gets out of the institution, they continue their vow to destroy this mirror and in their childhood home. And that's the kind of the synopsis for it, like a little Cliff Notes version of what the story's about. Which is a great setup, really, for a horror movie. Because if you stop and think about it, mirrors don't have a really good reputation for horror. Most movies that are about mirrors are terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're muted, Derek, by the way.
I would say you're pretty spot on there.
Yeah, and
you usually are.
And they tried. I mean, they've tried mirrors for a lot. I mean, there's the movie Mirrors, of course. There's this movie, terrible, like early '90s, late '80s movie called Mirror of Death.
Mirror of Death.
Mirror of Death. And I mean, mirrors actually come into play a little bit in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness as well, which is good. But so that's why we have to give kudos to Mike Flanagan to make a movie about a mirror scary, right? I mean, by all intents and purposes, it should be cheesy and not good. But it's anything but. It's really well made.
So I think one of the things it has going for it is in the title of the movie, it doesn't reference mirrors.
No, it doesn't.
It's a great play on, the visual aspect of
what you're seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, there's kind of, a little bit of a deep-rooted fear, I think, at least for me,
of mirrors. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, have you ever stared in a mirror to look to see if anything moves behind you? Like, I know I have.
I typically don't stare into mirrors.
Well, no, I mean, I don't, maybe not now, but when you're growing up, there's all the stories
of course,
Bloody
Mary, Candyman.
Yeah, all those things. But then just you're a kid, it would be I think natural to look in a mirror to see if you could see something moving behind you.
Well, yeah, and there's a bunch of folklore regarding mirrors, that that's our doppelganger in there. That's our other half that we're looking at in the mirror and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's naturally a gateway to another world, exactly. And yeah, so I mean, in that aspect, absolutely. It just doesn't translate well into film usually. So that's
for sure.
What I like about the movie, let's start to get into it, is the way they tell this story is not linearly. They don't tell it linearly. Yep. So we find out certain aspects as the movie unfolds. And it's done in a way that we're fleshing out the past with the present. And they're kind of, ironically, mirror images of each other. Which is purposely done, obviously. But they're
the last ending, half hour.
The ending is 100% just a mirror of itself. So I really dig that. What do you guys think of the movie, the very opening of the movie? What do you guys think? Like when we're introduced to just, the setting, him in having this dream, and we see it, and then we just don't know what the hell's going on pretty much right away, right?
Yeah. It keeps you immediately confused, asking questions. What is this dream about? And then he's like, that's the first time I've ever seen it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Something is changing, something's going on in his head that is making him perceive things differently. So we immediately know that something's happening. Something's coming up,
Yeah. And it's, I also like that we don't have any context for it yet. We just know that, okay, so this is a troubled child, that, something happened here. And, we're just kind of lost in this world. And then when we're introduced to, I love the shot where we're introduced to, Karen Gillan's character, Kaylee, because it's this wonderful shot from behind her, and we're following her, and we just see her ponytail swinging back and forth. It's such a great Flanagan shot. It really is.
And I just want, since you just brought that up, I just want to talk about how I think that her bangs are her real hair, and the long hair is all a wig piece.
Maybe.
Because if I remember correctly, at the time, bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
At the time that this came out, I remember I think they had just wrapped on Doctor Who, and she cut all of her hair off. And then this movie comes out and she's got extremely long hair, and I was like, except like her bangs that was like the length of her actual hair. So I was like trying to put all this together. So don't quote me on that, but I think half of her hair is a wig, which is interesting. And that's why it's such a strange cut too. Like her bangs are
the cut is weird.
unusual.
I noticed that too. Like,
and I think they were trying to just kind of merge it together to make it not look like a wig, which I think they did really successfully.
Yeah, it almost looked like a like 70s haircut, 1970s haircut.
And I don't think they wanted to do that, but that's how it came out. Like,
so here's the thing. Like, I had no
theory.
Context. Yeah, no, it's a great theory. I had no context of her ever being on that show, and I had no history of that. So just watching this, I assumed it was her real hair. So they did a great job because I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah, I didn't notice the wig part, but I noticed her bangs were really weird. Like, I just was like, interesting cut.
Yeah.
Like looks like 70s, like a 70s like feather going on. There's a great shot early in the movie when we have the first flashback to them moving into the house. That's this wonderful Mike Flanagan shot. It's a oneer. We have this oneer of them going into the house, and we follow the kids playing their
laser
tag, and they follow through, and we go into the room where the mirror is going to be his office. We see the dad on the phone and everything. It's a great like geography shot. And I was like, oh yeah, man, I should have known that early. Why didn't I pick up on that so early that this guy was great? But when she first sees the mirror, and we're just like kind of confused because we don't know anything about it yet, and she's like just like eyeballing this mirror. It's pretty hilarious. If you have no context or anything, you're like, damn, she hates mirrors.
There's a. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's great at setting up like her disdain for it that early, because she's trying to, she's having a conversation with her fiance. She's trying to pretend like everything's fine, but you can just see, and when it sells, she gets this like smile, and you're like, oh, okay, something's off here.
Yeah. So two things. One, I think that this movie is almost perfectly cast. There's one character I would probably have, you could
replace with Tom Atkins, of course. We will do that at the end.
Exactly, yeah. But like all the other characters were just so well cast. Because the mom is played by Katie Sackhoff. Hopefully I pronounced her last name correctly. And she does a great job in this movie as well.
Yeah, she does a brilliant job. And the kids that they cast look like they could be their kids.
Yeah, no, great casting all like through the roster. And here's my other point. The two paths that these kids go on to become adults are really fascinating, because he's went the clinical route. He's been in institutions since that happened, and they've rebuilt him from the ground up, right? Because they assume that he like imagined all this stuff, and later in the movie,
he shot his dad.
Yeah, he shot his dad, and he's going through like all the things to try to diagnose her, because she was thrown into the foster system, and she grew up, and her entire life has been dedicated to getting in a position to get this mirror. She's dedicated her entire life to it. Exactly.
Well, right? It's first to prove that it exists so she can clear her family's name.
Yep, that is a great point. But it's just fascinating the two routes that these two characters have taken.
And it's great that he chose that route, because when I first was starting to watch it, before they got into it and her going through the whole history and everything, and we finding out that she's wanting to clear the name, I was like, why don't you just fucking break it right now? You know what I mean? Like, as soon as you get it, they're like being careful when they're bringing it into the house. I was like, why didn't you just throw it down and like start stomping on it right then? End it. End of story.
Wouldn't let him.
End of movie. Well, I think at that point she could have, but she wants to prove what's going on first. And then that's what gives it power. Because remember, it's powerless at this point. Hasn't killed anybody in a long time.
It's been dormant for a while.
It's been dormant. And the fear of the dog is what brings it back.
She sees things
She's
before
a little
she
bit,
takes it out of there.
A little bit. She sees a little bit, but it's not powerful enough to do anything to her. And she mentions that.
Yeah, which is a great scene, by the way, because she goes up there and she's looking at the mirror, more or less like saying, "You son of a bitch, I'm gonna get you now." And then you see, like, right behind her, there's two statues, but there's three statues in the mirror, and one slightly turns its head. Oh, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because this is a really good scene.
So good, yes. That is like the freakiest thing I've seen in a while. Like, I forgot about that scene in this movie.
Well, and the atmosphere of it being in a auction house where they have all these statues. I mean, it's so natural for the setting. It's not like artificial, like, oh, why would they have these sheets over these things? Well, they're in an auction house. These are all antiques. So just the setting of it is super, super natural. See what I did there?
Yes.
But anyway.
Yes.
Very natural. And so, like, the anticipation of her pulling those off of each one of those just builds to it. It's a great scene.
Yeah, it is.
And then she gets scared, like she gets startled by someone. It was good.
She gets startled by that really fucking creepy, like, guy that's moving the mirror. What's that guy's deal? He's like, I'll move it from here.
He does the restoration normally for
antiques. It's like, you need to get out of here, buddy. You're creeping me out.
Hey, how about you make a noise?
Yeah, how about you don't sneak up on people like a freak? So when they get back to the house, she starts to give like her little history lesson, which is pretty, I like, because it gives us the lore of the mirror, right? Tells us, it sets up not only that this thing is dangerous, but it has a history and has been dangerous for a long time. But what's brilliant about it is it also sets up the counter argument of you're mixing up correlation with causation, which this movie could have went into that route too and made it, been like, so this is what you think happened, but here's what happened. But really, this all happened. So it's great playing with your mind like that. What do you guys think of her little, first of all, her setup, her plan that she has? She has a pretty step-by-step plan for this.
Yes. I love it.
You're muted, Derek.
It's so good. Like, she's so smart and she's got it all figured out, and like, and then her brother just comes in and just knocks it down.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So here's the thing. She had one flaw in her plan that I can think of. One. So she knew that this thing had, because she sets up plans. This is kind of brilliant, because she has a great memory. Her memory has not been what do I want to say? Not tampered with. Tampered with, but it hasn't been corroded by all these people telling you, no, this can't be what happened. This is what happened. Your mind tried to like place all these things because you went through this traumatic experience. So she's got a very clear memory of all these things that happened. So she places plants periodically throughout the house. And at one point, whenever it's starting to get a little stronger, she gauges how far it's come out from the house. And this gives an indication for one flaw in her plan. She should have had somebody outside of the house watching them to make sure that, like, it did. You know what I mean? Like,
you mean like
couldn't have been corrupted.
You mean like a Glenn situation is what you're talking about. You're talking about a Glenn situation where Glenn's supposed to be watching Nancy sleep.
Exactly. That's exactly what. That was the only flaw in her plan.
Except in her flaw was that she picked Glenn and he fell asleep.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked out anyways.
It may have, if you would have hired the right person. You knew you should have got to do it. Somebody that was incorruptible, like Tom Atkins, could have played that guy if that guy existed in the script, and then he just would have came in smoking cigarettes and then just broke the mirror, and just moved on. Moved on with his day.
I mean, if she would have been
the problem.
Go ahead.
The problem is nobody in their right mind would believe.
No, that's definitely the fatal flaw. And she kind of does that, except that she's using the phone, which it corrupts. So it's making the calls. But she has her boyfriend or her fiance call in, check in. But the problem is with, that they're not in charge with the electronics. And she's like 50-50 that was him or not. Who knows?
Yeah.
Which I love when she says that. I love that.
Well, that's after there's a great bit where there's a big dramatic break because he almost convinces her that she's crazy and it's in her head. Let's just go home. And really, if she would have done that, they probably would have been. They would have been fine. They would have lived. They would have been good to go. But right when he does that, she goes in and she sees the plants dying around, and she knows, it's happening.
Well, not only the plants, but everything is repositioned.
And then
cameras are facing
the cameras, are facing each other. Yeah, and I love when they go back and they review the footage and they see as they're having this bit, because we see it in our view. We see them having a confrontation, and he's kind of pushing her to, what I mean, it's confrontational. And then when we see it played back, they're moving the cameras around and doing all this stuff that they had no memory of doing.
Yeah, while they're saying
exactly
that they were
the same
arguing
stuff.
about, but not even looking at each other. They're just doing other things.
Yep, and in their minds, they were doing what we saw them do. Yeah. How
cool of a scene is that?
Really cool.
I love that idea that it just plays with you. You don't know what's real and what's not.
Yeah, really cool. And then the they play with it. The very next scene, he goes, she's like, if you're gonna make a phone call, you need to go outside. So he goes outside and he's trying to call his shrink, and she's like, hey, and he looks up and he's just sitting in the corner. He hasn't even left, and she's like, you came over here and you sat down. And it's like, oh shit, you can't trust anything you're seeing now.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm going to hark on this because it's the one thing that I think that she should have thought of. If they would have had somebody watching them, we wouldn't have had a movie. I understand that, but it makes me mad.
So
I like these characters.
Yeah,
so do I. So let's put a pin in the modern day and let's go back in time.
Yeah.
Slap into the DeLorean and go back in time. The backstory here of their first encounter with the mirror is very interesting. Because there's some really cool, scary stuff that happens here. So the dad is slowly being seduced by the mirror, essentially. And what's the mirror's name? Marisol? Yeah, Marisol. Yeah. And which, by the way, that character is played by Kate Siegel, who is, of course, Mike Flanagan's wife and plays Theo in Hill House and is in every single one of his movies. But he's being seduced and he's starting to act weird and secretive. And they're seeing the woman they talk about the woman in the office. They're, Kaylee sees a woman in the office. And then Tim sees the woman in the office outside of the office and then goes back into it. And meanwhile, as this is going on, seducing the father, it's also seducing the mother in an opposite way. So it's making her see things that aren't there. Like that scene where she looks in the mirror and she sees her scar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and she's already self-conscious about. So then when she sees it in the mirror, it's like pussed open and and gross. And then also before that, because that's when the shit hits the fan, she's leaving the office and she hears the mirror call her a fat cow.
Yeah.
She hears
it's
her
in his
husband
voice.
call her a fat cow.
It's his voice. Yeah.
He didn't say it though. So like, oh yeah,
that's what I mean. And so she's
upsetting.
Like, what is going on? And then she starts to lose it. She's starting to lose it. And it kind of has a little bit of DNA of the Babadook in it with these scenes. Which is ironic that we watched that last week. Because I got that same vibe of like, the Babadook brought the same vibe that this does, where we see the mother kind of losing herself and unraveling. Except it happens a lot quicker here because it's not the focus of the movie. But seeing it like start to unravel a little bit, and then see her like them not being able to believe anything because they lock the dog. You know, the dog's in that office. She locks the dog in the office. And then the dog's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she like accidentally locked him in there, I think too.
Yeah,
like,
she
I don't
did.
think she meant to. She just
opened it to put him in there and shut the door, and then
realized she doesn't have the key.
Yeah, she couldn't let him out, so she says he's in trouble. But when they open it up, he's gone. And what was really interesting is that, you know, that's how Kaylee remembered it, and then Tim remembered it, the dog actually being sick, having parvo, going to the vet, not coming home. So he remembers these things that probably didn't happen. But
I'm sure that was all the
implanted memories, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The corruption of his recollection of what happened that was, you know, catered to by the psychologists.
So what's interesting is once she goes crazy and tries to, like, she starts strangling Tim. And guys, when she turns bad, it's scary, right?
Oh man, it's so she goes, the mirror gets threatened.
Yeah.
Because she goes in there and she throws something and barely misses it.
Yeah,
and then it just like, okay, I got to take you out, and
it
blows
so
her back.
Right then.
Yeah, and so that's when it really grabs a hold of her. But yeah, I felt like it felt threatened, and so it lashed out.
Yeah, you knew who wouldn't have missed that mirror? Peyton Manning.
That's right.
Mirror would have been
a rocket arm.
But
you know, I've got a little different take on the seduction of the dad.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. We haven't even talked about it yet.
Oh, you mentioned it.
Yeah, I just mentioned it. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to jump into this? Okay, so there's a scene where the little boy goes down, the lights are off. And the little boy goes down and opens up the office door and it's like, Dad, the lights are off, or did you get them back on? And he sees the woman behind the dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The first thing that came to mind was she wasn't seducing him. She was feeding off of him. Like,
well, yes.
That's what it looked like to me. She was feeding off of him and he caught her feeding.
Yes and no.
She got really scary right there when he sees her.
She did. She
wrapped her
hand around
face.
the door.
Yeah. So yes and no. He, of course, she is feeding off of him, but to him, it's a form of seduction. He's getting pleasure off of this feeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because that's what they're doing. They're draining both of them of will and of life. That's what the mirror does.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that scene is pretty cool. The way that it's a little too CG when we see your face. A little too CG like, but it's effective that she's just like hovering over him like a creep. And then when the mom goes ballistic and chases him upstairs, that's pretty good, pretty scary. But guys, I think the scariest, to me, one of the scariest scenes is when Kaylee goes up to finally check on her mom, and she's fucking tied to the
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
wall, and I got some severe like Zelda PTSD.
Right? Yeah, that's kind of a super like Zelda moment.
Yeah, and I was like, oh,
which I love. She
Yeah.
like the plate. There's like a broken plate. Like she breaks the plate and she just starts eating the pieces.
Yeah.
And it just busts all of her teeth up, and her lips are so nasty. And then
she's reaching at her.
Yeah, and then she comes and just tries to attack her, which is kind of like you're kind of like, is she attacking her? Is she like pleading for help? Like she's just trying to get out of there. But then she does come after them. So she's just completely lost her mind at this point.
She's gone.
Yeah,
she's gone. But yeah,
what'd you guys think of the? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I was gonna say, what'd you guys think of the scene where the dad he hurt his finger at dinner, and it's just been nagging, and he's got the Band-Aid and he takes it off,
Band-Aid.
and then he gets
the staple remover.
It's gross, but it bothers me because here's why it bothers me. I've got a Band-Aid on my finger and I couldn't get it off. Never have I tried to like rip it at the wound. I would clearly, if I had that staple remover, I would try to remove it that way.
Right underneath.
So but it's very effective because it's nasty. When he does it, he's like, oh.
And then the voices start in. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You don't feel the pain. Yeah. It's great.
And then when she goes to get the neighbor's help.
Yep.
Because they have no food, they have nothing. And she goes to get the neighbor's help, which was a very smart decision. Except she should have said, you need to come inside and you need to check on my mom because she's tied to a fucking place. But his he's acting like normal, and then you see his hand and it's all like all the wounds and his blood. The fingernails removed. Nasty. So let's talk about the end of the past. Let's talk about the end of the past before we get back into the present. On the big night. So all hell breaks loose. And we find out, basically, that the mom is trying to kill them, like you said, Lydia. What do you think?
Yep, she's definitely trying to kill him.
Go into it.
I don't know how many times they strangle that little girl. That poor little girl would not be okay.
No.
If you have an adult, squeezing your throat, trying to murder you, you have the bone that's in there that gets broken. It would just be game over for her probably pretty quickly. But she makes it, and that bone somehow just is the strongest bone. Good for her, because she makes it through. I imagine how would she possibly ever be okay after that, though?
I don't know how she would be, like, how she wasn't traumatized and put, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't understand that. That's weird to me.
She's just so, strong-willed that she's like, I gotta take this thing down. I'm gonna obsess over it for my entire life until this thing is gone.
Pretty much. So,
if you think about the life that she led with her fiance, right?
Yeah.
It's really, it's not her. Like, everything that she has done has been a calculated move to gain possession over this mirror again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know who she really is. You know what I mean? And you're right, she's so strong that she and strategic. She's a very smart person. To get in a position to reclaim that, it's really sad. You're right. How do you not put her in some sort of therapy to try to help her?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mom starts to come to her senses before the end.
Yeah, she does.
So so the dad goes upstairs and unleashes her
Mm-hmm.
upon the kids.
Unleash
And
the
then
beast.
essentially, yeah. And go ahead with what you're going to say, because
I was
it's
gonna
a
say,
very strong moment.
yeah, just that she starts to regain herself
Yeah.
and miss this madness.
She's fighting it. Like, she realizes that is her child that she's strangling, and she starts to come to, and you're like, oh, there's hope right in her eyes, and then she just gets shot. And you're like, dang it.
Of course. Then he gains his wits about him before the end as well, to save his kids. And, forces Tim to shoot him, essentially, to save the kids.
Yeah.
He says something in this movie, and I'm not going to remember it verbatim, but it was something about, the mirror is the devil, I think the little kid said. And the dad is like, no, I've seen the devil inside me, or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The devil
I'll drop it
me.
right here.
It is me. I've met my demons, and they are many. I've seen the devil. He is me.
But it was very well written. As far as like that conversation between the two. It's really, really good.
Yeah, so Tim ends up getting taken away, and that leads us to where we are. Also, while I mentioned in the past, guys, I love that this takes place in like 2002. And like
flip phones.
I remember, like seeing the technology brings me back. The one
laser tag.
I have one problem with the movie. I don't know if you guys are going to know what it is about the 2002 time setting. They are sitting on the couch playing Game Gear together. Game Gear. It's 2002. They would be playing like at that time the DS had been out, right? So they wouldn't be playing 1992 Sega Game Gear. Come on, Flanagan. Come on. I know you wanted to throw Game Gear in because you were probably a fan. I owned one. They were great. Not in 2002. Ran over with the Game Gear. But I saw that, and I was like, I literally did math when I saw it. I was like, oh, there's the Game Gear. Wait a minute, when does this movie? 2012? 2013? Oh, so it takes place around 2002? 2001? Why is there a Game Gear?
Maybe
really
they
nice
got it at a yard sale.
Maybe.
You never know.
Maybe.
They spent a lot of money on the mirror.
Yeah. We're buying this huge mirror. You guys get fucking thrift store Game Gear shit.
Yeah.
Can't afford a DS.
Yeah.
We spend all of it on this house and this fucking creepy mirror, which, by the way, I don't know about you guys, but I just wouldn't want the mirror to begin with, especially if it's expensive. Like, nah, cheap mirror will do fine for me.
Yeah.
Next!
I had that thought of like, I wonder how they got it.
Yeah.
Like maybe it was like, I don't know. It doesn't say how they got the mirror. Maybe
probably very similar to the way that
I think they
accidentally got it.
Yeah. Like auction or something.
Or it was like already in the house or something, maybe like.
No, they brought it in.
Yeah.
We see the movers bringing it in.
And she makes a comment about you buying like antique furniture.
Yeah.
But then they don't ever show any other antique furniture.
Yeah, I guess, because he talks about it, that they got different other stuff, but like, nah, we're only going to show the mirror. It's all that matters. Because they didn't want to talk about the haunted toaster that was in the other room as well.
Right.
Yeah. They put this weird goo in it and it dances around.
Yeah. The old man-eating toaster. So there's a cool scene I want to talk about, which is where she is eating the apple.
Yes.
And they're changing light bulbs in present day, and she bites into, you see it coming, you're like, oh no. And she bites into it. Yeah. And she bites into it, and we get this harrowing scene of her digging the glass, out of her mouth because she just bit into it. And then when he sees her, she's got the apple. So it's like it played with her head to make her think she bit it.
Yeah.
And so they start to not be able to tell fiction from reality. Because there's the bit where, there's another mistake, by the way. I just want to point this out. Here's another mistake that she made. Critical mistake. Once all this crazy stuff's going on, and they've already had proof of some weird stuff happening on camera, right? She wakes up, she's standing in front of the mirror, and she sees the weight is about to go off. So she goes and she flips it. She's like, oh, nice try. Why didn't she just move out of the way and let it crush it?
That's a good point.
She has the opportunity every single time.
And then just
like,
yeah,
she thinks that she can outsmart it, and that's her biggest downfall, is that she thinks she's too smart. She's a little cocky. Yeah, way overconfident, because she way underestimated this mirror.
Yeah, she should have just
that would even work.
Yeah, she definitely should have just, let it crush at that first point, and then game over.
Which I think says so much for this movie about how scary it actually is, because this mirror is terrifying if it is this powerful and this able to defend itself and take out anybody it wants to. Like, I mean, it has so much power. It is so scary. You're doomed, basically,
Well, it's kind of like it warps the reality.
Yeah, it's reality.
It really messes with your...
Which is incredible. Like,
yeah.
It's so wild. And, like, the fact that they set it up where it's like, the dad, gets shot and cracks the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, okay, there's, like, you just gotta trick it just right, like, something. And we never actually get that, like, the payoff that we think we're gonna get. In this movie.
You hire a sniper to be like a block away and
right? Maybe that's
game over, man.
Take it out.
Yeah.
It seems to have some kind of shield,
Well, I don't think it has a shield. It's just that it manipulates people to see what it wants to see. Because I wholeheartedly believe that if she would have, after she stepped aside from the mirror that time and keeps it from breaking, I wholeheartedly believe she would have let it go. It would have broke the mirror. It would have shattered it.
Yeah. Because
there's nothing to stop it. It can't manipulate, like, physical things.
Yeah, something that's not conscious.
Yeah.
Or
it's
alive.
manifesting. So that machine would have crushed it. It would have been done. But she just, like you said, was too cocky and just kept, no, we need to see more. And that was her downfall. So why do you guys think her fiance shows up? Besides the script saying that he needs to, so we have a death.
Yeah, right.
Because there's really no reason for it.
Well, I think it's because
I would have.
Exactly. It's like he cares about her and he has no idea what's going on. She's acting weird. I'm just gonna go there and just check.
I guess I can see it if she wasn't, like, answering her phone and he's thinking, like, she's thinking she's talking to him, but she's not. That could be made a little more clear. And maybe that's why. But Derek, to your point earlier, you gotta make some noise, guy. Like, what are you doing just walking right up on her? Jesus Christ.
Well, and at that point, she's in a vision.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? She's being manipulated, and she sees her mom.
She sees her mom.
Oh yeah, it is her mom at that point.
She sees her mom,
and
but that's what I'm still though. If he would have, from entering the room, hey, maybe she would have looked, and then he would have had time,
snapped out of it,
or he would have had time to push her away or something. Instead, he just like
The thing that pisses me off about this is that she has the phone that she's looking through. She's recording. So, and she goes upstairs. She's upstairs in the bedroom, and she sees the shattered plate on the floor from the past, from when her mom was chewing on a ceramic plate. And so she sees that, it's only in her vision and it's not in the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I'm on to you. But then she just like has to touch it. Like, why? Don't touch it. You're interacting with it. You're giving it the energy that it wants by interacting with it. That's the one thing. And then she goes downstairs. Like, if she would have had that mindset that I would have about it and be like, oh, that's ghost stuff, I'm not touching that. And she goes downstairs and she picks up a giant piece, and is still looking, which is a really cool idea that you could see it. Like, in her head, she's seeing it out here, but in the phone, it's different, which is probably just a trick that it's playing on her to make her feel like she's in control.
Very well.
Well, well, it is. We already have established that it can manipulate electronics.
Phone calls at minimum,
yeah. And shut off lights and shit. So.
But it's like, don't touch it. Like, if she wouldn't have picked that piece up.
Yeah, just leave it alone.
Her fiance would be alive.
He would have at least maybe just had a black eye because she might have hit him, and he'd been like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and then he could have got killed by the mirror some other way,
Yeah. And her conscience.
Here's another thing. So, one of the things that I imagine, one of the reasons why he goes over there is her brother just got out of an institution.
Oh well, yeah.
Right? And that's kind of a play that they have.
And she uses that. Yeah, she uses that to.
That's when I'm like,
him
hey,
why to call
Jamie,
her.
I'm gonna go check on my girlfriend, man. Will you come over with me? Just as like backup. Why doesn't he have something with him?
Yeah, well, because man, he's tough. Don't you know? He wears glasses
He
and works
is
in an auction
not
house.
tough. Yeah. He's not tough.
Clearly, the most.
I feel like
most
he
rough and
wasn't.
tumble.
I feel like he wasn't dedicated enough because he didn't question her further about it.
I think he was
in the beginning of the movie.
I think he just was an underwritten character. I think he was there. He was there to add to the body count and to make certain plot points work.
I think
because
you're right.
The rest of the characters are super well written and super well rounded and feel like characters, and he just feels like an afterthought.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because to be honest, the psychiatrist at the beginning feels more of a character than this guy does.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is interesting. That the way. So what's interesting about it is how that plays out, and she's like thinking that she's still being tricked. She's like, "Oh, it's not a real plate because the plates really aren't here, so he's okay."
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, her brother's like, "No, dude,
you just broke that pot.
He's dead."
The flower pot. Ceramic flower pot, unnecessarily. She kicked it right before she went up there.
Yeah,
and broke it.
Yeah,
because she was frustrated, and it's like, that's you messed up.
So bad stuff happens.
Yep. So go ahead, Derek.
There's a point that we kind of touched on it, but we didn't go deep into it. So the lore of this mirror. Because she gives a really good detailed history.
Yeah, it's really cool.
When it first showed up, how many people she thinks that it killed, and goes through each one of these scenarios.
Yeah, I really like the way that they cut this, the way that he shot it and cut it, with her holding it up to the camera, and then we would see it from the outside, but then we'd also see it from the camera. It's like this presentation.
So it actually made me want prequels to this movie. I feel like he really gave an option to go in different directions.
Yes, yeah, you could go forward and backward with this.
Yes, I wouldn't want a prequel because we already know how it ends. We already know that it doesn't get stopped. And I would rather see a sequel to this movie, and so then there's the opportunity to end, to kill this thing, to defeat this thing, or for it to morph into something else. The thing, I'm glad that we didn't. I'm kind of like that's a standalone story because it's just a story, and it's not a franchise. Because there's only so much. Can you imagine Oculus 5 mirror in space? You know what I mean?
I think if you have it planned out
Mm.
before you do that, and you have a clear vision of where you want to take the story, one or two, well, I would think two would be a really good like full story of it. If you are going forwards, or if you have like Oculus Origins. Yeah.
I mean, like, I want to see, I could watch every single one of those characters go through their different, like, hallucinations and things of like what's going on in their family and how they all kill each other and seeing things, and it's scary. Like, if it's truly scary, like spooky stuff going on, I'll watch it, But like, I agree, it's like, it's fine as a standalone, but like, I like to just imagine what the other stories are like too, because this one was so good.
Want a little more.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about.
That didn't hurt.
Let's talk about the end of this movie. Let's dive right in. Go ahead.
I was
You're
reading.
muted.
Go ahead. I'm not muted. Go ahead.
I'm not muted. You're muted.
Oh my God. So we get a mirror, no pun intended, of the ending of the 2002 story, where basically we have the similar things happen. The actual ending is exactly the same. So what do you guys think of the ending?
Yeah, it's really intense. I personally, I remember hearing a lot of people not liking the ending.
When I first watched it, I was kind of cold on the ending, mainly because I liked her so much.
Yes, and
exactly. I wanted her to at least escape or something, because I liked her character so much. And also I was frustrated by some of the decisions that she made. It was like, you could have got out of here, you're stupid. You could
have done it. You almost did it. It ends on a super bummer.
It's definitely a downer of an ending. Yeah.
It is a downer of an ending.
Gets tricked and gets killed by the mirror.
Again.
And it's a bummer.
Gets tricked again. And she gets tricked in the same way she was tricked earlier in the movie.
Yes.
Well, I know, but like, with the life that she's had and what was taken from her, like, the ending from her perspective, like, she gets to embrace her mom one last time. Like, it's an awful mirror, that piece of crap. It really played on the card that it had the most value for, which is it seems like whenever it kills something or someone, it captures their essence or their soul, because there's especially towards the end, you see all the the people that it has killed are present
in the mirror,
it. And so, like, her mom is permanently attached to this thing, and it really plays hard on that in the end to lure her in so that it has a shield from the brother. And he finally decides, hey, we've had enough.
We got to end this thing.
Yeah.
Which he's the smartest one. They should have ended it earlier, though.
For sure. But it's really heartbreaking, because that's the only thing she's ever wanted, was her family back.
Yeah. And the actual ending itself is, like I said, the exact mirror. He's walking away with the police. Everything looks like he did it again. And he tells him, it's not me, it was the mirror. And in 2002, he looks back and sees his parents in the mirror. And then in modern day, 2013, he sees his parents and his sister in the mirror. So he's the only one left. So yeah, definitely a downer of an ending, for sure.
Yeah. And he's never getting out of.
Probably not.
I don't know, man. If you review the footage, he could get, like, I was insane. He could definitely get that plea.
Well, yeah.
That's what I was saying. I want to see the sequel of that.
The footage does exist.
Yes.
So they can also show the crazy shit that was going on. That stuff that can't be explained. They can see some of that stuff. and be like,
I want to see
huh.
that movie of the detective who gets put on this case that has to like figure out what exactly happened. Which, if you think about it, there would have had to have been an investigation of their parents' murder, basically,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like something wouldn't have added up about that. Of like, it wasn't the little boy that was like torturing the mom. Like that little boy would have killed his
No,
dad in self-defense, right?
they say that. They say that the dad kills the mom and that the dad
Mhm.
tortured her. But he killed the dad in self-defense. And it messed him up so bad that that's why he went
Yeah.
into
Trauma.
the psychiatry thing. And in this one, it just, now it looks like he just killed his sister, but they know the history of the mirror, so they'd have to know that it wasn't intentional either.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure that if they reviewed the footage, because she's walking up to it as he's walking away from it.
Yeah.
And when he turns the thing, she's just there. I mean, you could, I think, convince a jury that it was an accident.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
especially with everything else that was going on.
Like, yeah, that this was a mania that was occurring between the two of them. They were feeding into this narrative that wasn't real, and this was an accident. You probably could build a pretty good solid case for that. I think I know why I like this movie a lot, but I think I know the one thing I have an issue with it, to what Lydia was saying, like it doesn't, we're trained with movies to have closure in a movie.
Yeah.
Right? The Conjuring movies have good closure. This movie does not have great closure. And it makes you want a little bit more.
Horror movies
You're right,
are
most
notorious for not having closure because evil never dies. And most importantly, neither do sequels and money.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point, but I just keep seeking that. And it's an unfulfilled thing with this movie.
We as the viewers have to like figure out, for ourselves,
your own closure.
Yeah, it's like what we want to happen.
Yeah. Well, Lydia, you and I are building these alternative endings to this movie. It's like, well, this is what should have happened.
So I asked Jake last night as we're watching this movie, and we're both like spooked, and we had a great time watching it. And I asked him, like we're both kind of talking like, what would we have done, And Jake said, well, I would have taken it on a boat and thrown it in the ocean. And I was like, the Jumanji style.
Yeah, Jumanji. That's a Jumanji solution. Got it.
Oh, I thought you were thinking Titanic. That's where my mind went.
Yeah. No, that was where I went next. I was like,
it is the Jumanji
because they Cameron
tie it up, throw it down.
Yeah. Because Jake was like, well, in Jumanji it comes back, and I was like, yeah, James Cameron, takes a little submarine down and finds it and drags it back.
That's what ends up happening. Yeah, that's funny. I was thinking about it, and you know what I would have done is just spray painted it all black over the entire mirror, because then I wouldn't. Maybe it would block its vision. Who knows?
You maced it.
Yeah, just block it all, and then it can't trick you.
If she didn't have the. It's not really pride, but she had it in her mind and you touched on this, Jamie. She wanted to clear her father's name. She wanted to make everyone realize, like, hey, this wasn't a story we told you. Like, these things really happen. If she would have had a different perspective on this, like, I'm going to gain possession over this, and I'm going to make sure it can never happen to anybody else. She should have just taken out in a field and buried that sucker like 20 feet underneath the ground. Anyway, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
There's a lot of solutions, but it always comes back.
You know what I would do? Here's what I would have done. I would have taken the mirror and I would have got some really cheap glass cleaner and would have sprayed it on it, and I just would have left streaks all over the front of it, just streaks. And then said, if you mess with anybody else, I'm going to bring more streaks. And then say, please use some Windex or something, and I'll leave you alone.
I'd have
And
mailed
that's how
that
I
thing
defeat the
to.
mirror. So I wonder if Candyman lives in there too.
Good.
Right. My thing, by the way, is make the device heavier than 40 pounds. That way, the kill switch,
It would
if she would
completely
have been there,
decapitate
it
you.
would have went through her and the mirror, instead of just through
Yeah.
her.
That's true.
That's my
true,
There you
that's
go,
my
Lydia.
thing. It's like if you'd have just had a heavier anvil that you're dropping on this thing,
Yeah, yeah.
End of
And why did
story.
it have to be? Why did it have to be pokey? It could have just been. It's a mirror. So
Blunt.
it could have just been flat. Smashed it.
Yep. Could have just been like any other heavy item.
It could have been a
that is big.
hammer attached to it.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger
Then-
style.
I want to know what happens if the mirror is fully broken, because
Yeah, me too.
it's cracked. And I mean, maybe that made it weaker, but like, I just feel like all the little pieces of mirror are all still just going to be like evil.
Maybe, or it just will lose its. I mean, now we're getting into Army of Darkness territory. Talking about we're talking about ashes running around.
Yes, exactly.
What a horrible dream.
Maybe it's just the frame itself, maybe it's not the glass.
Maybe
it's
it is the frame. In that case, you just burn it. Purge
Honestly,
it with fire.
This movie had a lot of parallels to 1408.
Yeah. Solid
It
movie
had a
as
lot
well.
of
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, we'll get into that one day.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But you're right.
That was a good one.
Why not just set that house ablaze, like as he's walking out or something, or just set the house on fire and let that sucker burn.
Anything.
We don't need no water. Move that motherfucker.
I really think that it's just so powerful that it won't let anyone even come close to hurting it.
Except
Well, that's what I'm
that
saying,
it's
yeah.
happened. Ooh,
I still
you know
think
who would
maybe
really?
you need to have somebody on the outside.
Yeah, John Constantine, guys. John Constantine.
Ooh.
Yeah, he had
Yeah. He messed with that. Got rid of it. He captures demons into mirrors and then throws them out of windows.
I like that. That's good. That's
You know what? We're
That's a
going to
good
make a fan film with John Constantine versus Oculus.
I like how the mirror's name is Oculus, by the way. That's what we call it.
versus Oculus. Yeah, what is
Oculus?
the mirror? That mirror was called something. Like it had a name.
The Lazarus.
It had a title.
Yeah, it did have a title. You're right, Derek. It's something like that. It's called the shit. I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, like the Lazarus mirror or something like that. You're right. Had some kind of name, but I think it's called the Oculus.
I mean, maybe.
Which, by the way, you guys know that if you wear an Oculus Rift, you get haunted by the Oculus mirror. True story. True story. By the way, when I was trying to research this movie, every time I type in the word Oculus, I get the fucking Oculus. And I'm like, I don't want that. And I finally had to be Oculus 2013 film. Because even when I did Oculus movie, Oculus film, it would show me, you can watch these movies on the Oculus. I was like, I don't want to do that.
The Lasser glass.
Lazar. There it is.
Lasser.
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 Lasser. Not Lassiter. That's a detective from Psych. Carlton Lassiter. And that is
cool.
Oculus. So guys, let's talk about our ratings and our thoughts on this. Let's start with you, Lydia.
Yeah, so I actually really enjoyed watching this. I remember seeing it in theater and being pretty freaked out, but the ending, of course, when you walk out of a theater with this ending, it's kind of like, it's like you don't walk out and think, oh yeah, I'm going to remember, this movie for a long time because I feel so great about it.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, ah,
Yeah, and
damn
it doesn't necessarily end scarily either. Like, it's not
yeah.
like the one last scare ending that
No,
most horror movies have, where you're like, ooh,
just
yeah,
it's just sad. Yeah.
yeah.
But I think like the rest of the movie is so good. I think I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay.
I think this is a solid 8 for me.
Derek, what do you say?
So, I mentioned this earlier. I think it was well cast. All of the actors did a great job. The leads, both in the past and in the present, had good chemistry with one another. The story was pretty solid. It had a couple weak points, and we pointed those out, but very solid. It was pretty scary. It had some good like goosebump moments in it for sure. And it's memorable. I own this movie. I like it a lot. So I'm gonna give this movie a 9.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Okay. I like this movie too. I like Mike Flanagan. I think he's a very good director. I think this is an interesting concept for a movie. I think it's well paced, pretty well, and very well shot. I have minor gripes about it too, but unlike you guys, I didn't like it. Didn't scare me. I didn't get spooked out by this movie. I was just along for the ride. I didn't get the goosebumps. I didn't get the chills. I just thought it was fun and good, and I was like, oh, this is suspenseful. So I didn't feel that. So that's why I'm going to give this movie a 7. Give it a 7. I don't think it's near as good as the last 2 movies we talked about. Last 3 movies that we've talked about on the podcast. I think they, those were all timers. Conjuring 2, and Evil Dead 2 are like all timers. But I like this movie a lot. It's a 7 for me. Solid 7. And I think that we could, I have a feeling we'll be seeing Mr. Flanagan here in the future on another episode. So, guys, now it's time to Atkinize this movie.
Really?
We don't have a lot of characters to choose from, but who would Tom Atkins play in this movie? That would not detrimentally ruin the movie because he would just end it in 5 minutes. Because if he was the dad, this movie would have no chance.
You think not the dad?
No, I'm saying if he was the dad, there's no way he would be seduced.
Oh, I
The
gotcha.
mirror,
I gotcha.
He would seduce the mirror.
Yeah.
True.
Game over.
Yeah.
Movie's over before it starts.
Yeah. So that leaves.
I mean, there's not a lot that he could be. He could be the dad, but I don't know. I don't think that's the right call. There's not.
Psychologist.
There's the therapist at the beginning, and then
Therapist.
there's creepy man. In the auction house, and I don't think he could be the brother. It'd be a way different movie.
He would be the mirror.
It would actually be maybe a more excellent movie in that case. I'd say the therapist, I guess. Yeah. They have to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say
I think he would do good as the dad.
Oh, I
if
think
he were
would
age
do.
appropriate,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
pick
He
him
would
to be
do.
the dad because I
Yeah.
feel like the dad was the weakest link.
Yeah, I
But
think
if
he
we're
would
going
definitely
for-
up the character. Yeah. He'd be
Yeah.
a stronger version of that character for sure.
I'll tell you who he
He
could
could
be.
also-
He could be the neighbor who walked over. That guy's a pansy.
Yeah.
I think the men in this movie, the casting,
Mm-hmm.
like the women were just way stronger cast than the men.
I agree.
That's just, both like the mom, the little girl, and you know, her grown up are all like such strong characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Loved
And
all,
I think
love
Tim's
them.
good. I think the boy that plays Tim as a boy is really, really
I
good.
do too. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
He was
And
in Insidious, I think,
yeah,
right? He played
yeah,
the
I think
young
so.
dad character.
Yeah, and then the other one, the him as an adult, he's okay. He's
Mhm.
kind of generic lead man, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kind of suffers from the same thing as um oh shit. Why can't I think of the name of it? Dead Silence. Kind of suffers from the same thing as Dead Silence,
Yeah.
right?
And a lot of those movies of that time
Yeah,
period kind of
yeah.
had like that same kind of looking guy,
Yeah, the same looking guy.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. The checking something real fast.
Are they all the same guy? Are you checking
I'm
if
seeing if they're all the
guy?
same guy. Are they all the same guy? No, I was checking something for the next movie.
Uh-oh.
To see
Okay.
if but yeah, it's yeah, I think that you're right. I think so that's who Tom Atkins has to be, I think. So guys, it's my turn to pick, and I'm kind of on the fence about what I'm gonna pick. I told Sarah earlier today I didn't know what I was gonna pick, because I didn't. And then as we were talking throughout this conversation, if you see me looking around, it's because I'm trying to decide. I was like,
I see
what
you.
the fuck am I going to pick?
I see you looking around.
Yep, I'm not quite sure. And so, like, I didn't know if I wanted to go old school, like old school. Didn't know if I wanted to go slashics, because I love the slashers. And I'm the one that picks them. And I didn't know if I wanted to go like modern horror or what have you. But you know what we haven't really done yet, right? You know what we really haven't done yet
What?
is we haven't really done a schlocky early 2000s horror movie.
Like Shriek?
Right? No. We haven't done an early 2000s horror movie, right? Right? Not really. So I was thinking for next week we should do the 2003 flick Darkness Falls.
I'm game. I like that movie.
What do you think?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, Darkness Falls it is next week. It is currently streaming on YouTube. It is streaming on Hulu. And it's on Amazon. So you can find Darkness Falls on all of those. And remember, it's the 2003 version of Darkness Falls. It's about the Tooth Fairy. And when you were talking about generic lead guys, I was like,
Huh. I know
Wait a
some of
minute.
those.
I think I know a movie that fits that perfectly. I think I know poor man's Ryan Reynolds is right around the corner. So next week is Darkness Falls. I'm excited to get into the 2003 schlock. So guys, anything else you want to touch on?
Let's see. How about everybody comment what you would do to trick the mirror?
Yeah.
And let us know. And then we'll read them.
Also, let us know if you would ask it if you're the fairest of them all. If you'd say Candyman's name 5 times to see if he pops out. If you would
it would
lay
be
it
like
down.
Mega Candyman.
Yeah, or if you would just lay it down and just do a giant line of coke off of it. Just let us know what you're gonna do.
You could do so many things. Or you couldn't.
You couldn't do any of them. Who knows?
It would just absorb the coke, probably.
Yes.
That's how you kill it. You just overdose it by throwing a bunch of drugs on it while it's laying down, and it just
That's a
doesn't
good
have
idea.
any choice but to absorb them.
That's a good idea. It's an unbeatable concept. Derek, anything?
I think we put it all on the table, man. I think we did a
Or
good job on
the proverbial mirror.
yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything. Good.
All right. Well, in that case, be sure to comment, like Lydia said, like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on line at HiLaProductions.com, where we have show notes and we have all of the previous shorts. Remember, May 21st is the premiere of Secret Admirer, our latest short, and you'll have tickets information posted on the Facebook as well. Lydia is currently making the poster. That'll be revealed by the time this episode airs, so look out for that. You can follow Derek on Twitter at @DDogleyMaster. You can follow Lydia on Twitter at Lydia is Spooky. You can follow me on Twitter at Racket. If there's nothing else for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I'm Jamie Hiles. Remember, if you're going to scream Bloody movies. Good night, folks.